Well, wasn't the Paradine case quite a bit compromised by Selznick? I mean, in the sense that it wasn't really what you wanted to do?
Well, it was one of his projects. He bought it from Metro. When it arrived, the projects arrived, the scripts were 18 inches high from the floor.
All different drafts?
Oh, yes. Different completed scripts.
Was he quite upset that you shot only what you needed and gave him no latitude for cutting?
Very. To use his own words, he said, I can't get on with this goddamn jigsaw cutting of yours.
But it did, in fact, prevent him from recutting the pictures, didn't it?
Yes, oh, yes, it did. He had to cut it the way it was.
Yeah.
I didn't do it to prevent him doing anything. It's just the way one shot, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting that the Paradine case and Under Capricorn have sort of a similar theme, in a sense, of the woman falling for the
groom.
The groom.
Sure.
But in both cases, the casting screwed it up for you.
Sure it did. In the first place, it should never have been Louis Jourdan because he was too clean cut. It should have been Robert Newton.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with Cotton. He shouldn't have played in Under Capricorn. It should have been a horny-handed, manure-smelling groom.
Yes.
Stable hand.
Yeah.
Didn't you set out to make Valley and Paradine Case the most admirable of the characters in the picture?
Well, any beautiful woman is a compromise for evil sometimes, you know. I mean, the externals of evil can obscure the real woman. After all, don't forget, she was a pretty low character because in the original story, of course, it was muffed a bit by the bad casting. You see, Selznick had Louis Jourdan under contract, and he should never have played that part. Peck wasn't right for the lead. See, there were compromises in that picture which I felt damaged the story. Shouldn't have been Peck, should have been Ronald Colman or Olivier, you see.
Oh, I see, yeah.
First
Somebody
of all,
more eloquent.
More dignified and less earthy, you know. The woman was all right. The woman was fine as she was. But the key character of Jourdan, which reflected the woman's immorality, should have been a manure-smelling stable hand, should have been played by Robert Newton or somebody like that.
Oh, I see.
But
that would have made it different, yeah.
Well, that's the whole point. It's the man's degradation. Man degrades him, you know, degrades himself by falling for a woman who can take any man, even a groom. Obviously, the woman must have been an nymphomaniac. But to give up an elegant wife, you know, for this type of woman, is his obsession with her, you know.
What did you think of that picture otherwise, other than the casting? I mean, that you felt hurt the picture?
To me, it screwed up all the values. It screwed up the whole basic situation.
Well, it's the same idea, in a sense, reversed in Vertigo, in the sense that the fact is the man falls for a woman who is really not very special.
Sure.
It's,
that's right.
But I suppose the point of that is that we can't help who we fall for.
No, that's right. It's like a human bondage, isn't it?
Right.
How would you define pure cinema?
Same as you heard me do in that address. Pure cinema is complementary pieces of film put together like notes of music make a melody, you know. Their individual things are notes or groups of notes.
Based then on the thing that Pudovkin tried when he's...
Well, he tried that whole thing, the woman looks down, like I described on the screen with Jimmy Stewart. It's the same thing. That's a subjective treatment, you know.
Where actually the audience is supplying you are making the audience supply the feelings behind the man.
Well, film, you see, film has to do it for them. For example, there are two kinds of primary uses of cutting or montage in film. Montage to create ideas, a montage to create violence and emotions. Now, The Girl in the Doorway in Birds, you see. There you have about 70 pieces of film there. Little tiny pieces so the audience, you see, are taken into her situation.
Yeah.
If you notice, there's almost on the screen a temporary relaxation in that scene when she falls to the floor.
Mm.
But I had to go back to show geographically that she had fallen. Had I stayed in close,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been the same. For example, in Rear Window, where Jimmy Stewart is thrown out of the window at the end, I just photographed that with feet, legs, arms, heads, completely montaged. I also photographed it from a distance, a complete action. There was no comparison between the two, and there never is. Barroom fights or whatever they do in Westerns when they knock the heavy or the one man knocks another across the table, which breaks. They always break a table in bars,
Or the railing.
Or the railing, whatever it is, They're always shot at a distance. They get much more, of course they don't have the time, say, in television to do it, but it's much more effective if it's done in montage, because you involve the audience much more. That's the secret of that type of montage in films. And the other, of course, is the juxtaposition of imagery relating to the mind of the individual. You can have a man look, you can have him see something, to have him react to it. You can make him react in various ways. You see, you can make him look at one thing, look at another. Without him speaking, you can show his mind at work, comparing things. Any way you look, there's a complete freedom.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with acting, does it?
No, not really. No. No, that's another thing. No, it's limitless, I would say, the power of cutting and showing the various images, the assembly of them, the effect, it's like the man with no eyes in the Birds, you see, zooming the camera in. I know I cut it for censor purposes, but actually the staccato jump in was almost like catching the breath. Is it? Yes.
Yes, like the triple take almost.
It is. Young directors always come up with the idea, let the camera be someone, and let them move as though they're the person, until they go in front of a mirror and then you see him.
It was a dreadful technique.
Montgomery
did that in Lady to
the Lake, yes. Yeah. I don't believe in that myself.
No. It was terrible, as a matter of fact. Very annoying, finally.
I don't think. What are you doing? I just will show the man. What's the point? If it's objective, show who it is. What are you really doing? You're keeping back from the audience who it is. Yeah. What for? That's all you're doing. Might as well show it who it is.
So the key, really, to using subjective is to use it sparingly, but at the right moment. I mean, when you actually do, you don't really move as the person. No, you do.
No, it depends. It depends.
Yeah. But I mean, a thing talking about the barroom fighting, I've noticed you use, I think in several pictures, with a fist coming right at the camera. That's in North by Northwest.
Yeah, sure.
One or two other pictures. That gives a fantastic feeling of, I mean, you really feel like you're getting hit. That's the technique, isn't it?
That's a merely underscoring of the violence, you see.
Well, are you going to do the Western in a subjective treatment from the point of view of the horse?
That's your favorite shot. I think you've talked about that, haven't you?
What?
About you never did a Western because you couldn't imagine putting the camera on the horse or something.
That's right, yeah, sure.
Well, I think I might have a couple of those.
You have to have a rig made. You have to have a rig, otherwise the camera...
A bounce.
You can't do it with a handheld camera.
No.
Just as much as I couldn't do that retreat down the stairs in Frenzy with a handheld.
No.
It would have wobbled, and all the smoothness and all the attention would have gone.
Yeah. Is there ever a reason to use a handheld camera?
Only as a device for young directors, you know, who also shoot those flowers out of focus and long focus lens on Fifth Avenue.
Yes. Well, even in the final fight in Rear Window between Burr and
Yeah, sure.
that wasn't shot with a handheld camera. Was
No, they were all individual setups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I don't understand, speaking cinematically. Do you have a barroom fight in your Western?
No.
No. They always shoot it from a distance so they can show the furniture breaking.
Yeah.
All the bottles on the bar all being shot to pieces. If they'd only go in and shoot a head and an arm and a foot, they'd bring that audience right into that fight. And it's much weaker when you're at a distance. It's just the way I liken a train. If you see a train whizzing through the countryside a mile away, it goes slow, it goes like that. But you stand within 6 feet of it. Knock you over. So there was a fight that was very deliberately worked out, that Rear Window fight, because I realized from a distance it would amount to nothing, just a struggle.
And also, if you'd done it handheld or something like that, you wouldn't be able to control it at all.
Well, handheld, I don't know what that means, because handheld is against all the rules of cinema. Cinema is montage.
Mm.
It's pieces of film 3 frames long if you want it.
What was the story you told me about the end of Spellbound where you inserted
2 frames.
2 frames of red?
Every print had to carry 2 frames of Technicolor red.
At the point when the gun went off.
Right.
Of course, that effect is lost on television.
Oh, naturally. Well, I'll go further. I think it was lost with audiences in the theater. But it gave them a bigger shock.
Mm-hmm. You don't think they actually noticed it?
I don't think they noticed it was red.
No. But they must have subconsciously felt something.
That's a different thing. Sure.
Well, that's what you go for, isn't it?
Sure.
The subconscious. You don't want them to sit back and say, oh, look what's happening to me.
No.
It's one of the most, well, isn't that the most important thing, the single most important thing in your movies is the point of view of the leading?
The subjective treatment, sure.
Yeah. So a person looks and you cut to what he sees. And that
Always, because that's the way you get a mental process going, by the use of the visual.
Yeah.
You see, a man looks, he sees something, and he reacts, that's why a Rear Window is an extremely cinematic film. And you get the same scene in the rape scene in Frenzy. You get the woman powdering her nose, and she looks up, and a man comes in the door. But if you analyze that scene, you'll find that everything is from her point of view. All the fear on her face and all the way she tries to head the man off and so forth. Then you only go to the objective momentarily when they're so close together
that you can't.
Otherwise you just get a nose. They're so close together you get a nose and eyes on them.
Well, also she looks away at that point anyway.
Yes, but there are moments when you have to switch from the subjective to the objective.
Right.
But once he got her in the chair, you were back into the subjective again.
Right.
Her subjective with his face leering down at her.
You didn't talk about your problems with Newman?
No, I had great problems. That he was actually an actor who, likes to do things in his particular way, which is all right with me. Because I often say to an actor, well, go on, you work around, see if you feel the scene all right. Do you feel it? And so forth. Where you run into trouble is when the actor goes and he does things his own way, but it gets in the way of the cutting. That he won't look in the right direction so that you can cut. Yeah. It's really a conflict between the freedom of the actor and the rigidity of pure cinema.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of discipline needed when it comes to playing a scene cinematically.
Didn't you have the same problem with Montgomery Clift?
Yes,
I
exactly the
Confess?
same. Yes. Yes, I wanted him to look in a certain direction for a certain purpose, and he said, I don't know whether I would look that way.
And you couldn't, you had to have him look that way because you had to cut to his point of
I
view.
had to cut to his point of view. It would be like having a man play Jimmy Stewart's part in Rear Window, and they're saying to me, I don't think I'd look over there.
Yes, well,
Well, you have no
goes the
picture.
picture. Yeah,
Not a
right.
picture at all.